The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century presents...
The fight is done.
You were the chosen one!
We lost.
Kenobi!
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the Kenobi Chronicles, our discussion and review of Obi Wan Kenobi, brought to you by the Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. And before we get started, I'd like to tell you, my name is Jared.
My name's Matt.
And once again, Mike is on assignment.
He's doing
Mike's
a good job.
Assignment.
He's doing a good job.
Yeah, he is. He's doing a good job. But I kind of have the feeling he wouldn't want to join us for these shows. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. But we do have back with us once again our friend, great, fantastic guest host, Lindsey.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
You are.
I was like, when I got your text, like, ugh, I was like, oh, I'm kind of liking it. I don't know.
It's it's great to have you back. We are going to be talking about this week Kenobi episodes 4 and 5.
Hey, by the way, before we dive in, did we warn anybody about what's going to be happening?
We did not use the spoiler warning.
We didn't do it. We didn't do it.
So
let us apologize that if you listened to our podcast or watched our video for the first 3 episodes, we spoiled everything. So what's going to happen?
Well, I do have my spoiler Walkman, and let's see if I can find the spoiler alert to play. Okay, I'm going to fast forward to the thing okay, and I can't ever get it right on.
I gotta tell you, you know what this is? This is the curse of the spoiler monkey.
Yeah, and Lindsey, this is what we call prop comedy.
I was just thinking that. Like, what? Such good prop comedy.
Let me see. Okay, and yeah, there it is. There's our spoiler alert. Yes, we're going to be talking about and spoiling episodes 4 and 5 of Kenobi. And as we start out of the gate, I was pretty positive on the first 3 episodes. I enjoyed them. I thought they were really good. And not to spoil anything yet, but for me, the shine is wearing off a bit. And we need to talk about it because I'm a little hurt. So
I have some ideas about it. But
okay.
That said, before we really deep dive into it, I will say that I'm still very happy with the show. Is it perfect? Far from perfect. But I still feel very lucky that I get to see Obi-Wan and what's happening right now. And it's not great, but there are great moments. And
I would agree with that.
And I'm going to tell you about those great moments.
That's a good description.
So let's do it.
So we pick up episode 4. Lindsey, I'm very glad you're with us this week because I know one of your favorite video games of all time is Jedi Fallen Order.
My sister's is too, and we were literally texting about this. Like, no one would break in. They broke in 5 years ago.
Because
in a water Inquisitoria, whatever the hell that thing's called. Literally the same thing. Sorry. It
is. So there has been some controversy regarding this episode because they basically filmed a level of the game in live action with
not just like it was the whole level. It's not just the Inquisitor. It was the Inquisitorium.
Fortress Inquisitorius.
Broke in, prison break, got out.
Yes. So in Jedi Fallen Order, Cal Kestis literally breaks into the you just said it and it's already
Fortress Inquisitorius.
Fortress Inquisitorius. He breaks in. It's
That
underwater.
sound Latin. Why would it be Latin? That's bizarre.
Well,
I'm sorry.
They say rendezvous in Star Wars. That's French.
They say lots of
Good point.
But it's underwater Inquisitorius. It's literally he swims in, he breaks in, nobody knows he's there. There's a water glass smashing scene. It's everything from the game. And they even have a line where they're like, who would be dumb enough? Like nobody would be dumb enough to break into. They did. He did. It was another Jedi who did it 5 years ago in the timeline of the. Oh my god.
Yeah.
And it's canon game, isn't it?
Yes, because they obviously based the show on because the video game level is identical.
Mm-hmm. I love seeing it because I love that level. It's such a great part of the game.
Yeah, I went back and watched it on YouTube like yesterday just to refresh my memory, and I was like, holy crap! Well, there's the torture chair they put Leia in. You know, everything is there. I don't think we get the Jedi frozen in amber.
Oh no, that's
in the
not
game.
No, they don't. They weren't bold enough to show dead kids.
Well, so anyway, this is how the episode starts. Episode 4, we Obi-Wan, of course, Leia. The last time we saw her, she was in the tunnel with Reva, and she has been kidnapped once again. So, for those keeping score, Leia has been kidnapped, rescued, kidnapped, and in this episode, will be rescued again.
Later in life, kidnapped and rescued again.
Yes, we are maybe spinning our wheels a bit, but
right.
Hey, let's talk.
So, talking about kidnapped Leia, okay, the interrogation scene might have been some of the worst writing I've seen yet in the show between Reva and Leia.
Okay, are you talking about when she's trying to Kylo Ren her?
Oh, everything about that scene with the two of them together, I thought was awful.
I feel like the show is having a hard time walking its own line with like being like acknowledging that like children have been murdered, but then won't show, like obviously don't want to actually torture obviously a real child visibly on air or on screen.
I agree with you.
I don't think they should have done that, but then why you gotta go so hard the other way? Like they just don't know where they want to like draw the line.
I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag, and it you even see it more in the next episode that we talk about. But I think one of the big problems with the show so far is Leia as a character. Now, hear me out. Okay. I like that they incorporated her in. I like that she's in the storyline. I think it's really amazing that we get to see an arc with her as a kid, because that's something that I didn't expect. And I still think it's pretty cool. But here's where I think the problem is so far. Now, Leia, we saw Luke from afar, and Luke is a kid. He's playing like a kid. He's being a little mischievous. He's playing like he's in a pod race. He's being a kid. Okay. Now I know Leia has been raised since birth to be a royal princess, and there's a decorum and a posture and that kind of, way she holds herself at a station. But that said, I have not felt once that she's a kid in this show. I feel like I'm watching Alia from Dune, that she's some kind of like, even though she has, force, she's force sensitive, obviously, because she's a Skywalker. I feel like she's like an adult there in a little kid's body, because she's the adult of the entire group. Obi-Wan complains incessantly about stuff, no matter what happens. Well, people can't be trusted, Leia. And she's the one saying like, you need to relax. Like she's the adult so far. And I'm okay with her being the adult in some like the interrogation. She's trained to be strong and poised, but like, I want to see her as a kid. I want to see her like fall down for a second and like be a kid and be upset and be scared and be like really upset. And I don't think I've seen that side of Leia where I believe it enough.
I think you saw her crack almost when she was in the chair.
Not enough. No, I just don't buy that Leia is a young child. I feel that they're making her too mature for every situation she's in. She's too calm. She's too cool. I want to see Leia be a little more of a kid. And I feel that's where I feel like some of the believability of what I'm watching falls down a bit, in my opinion.
I could see that. I think she's been in the. I didn't realize she was going to be in every single episode. I thought she was gonna get rescued and sent off to her dad like by episode 2 or 3. I think that for me, I kind of agree with that. I just think she's been. I love her. I love that actress. I love Leia. I love everything about it. But I think she's been in the show too long. I think maybe they should have. She should have went home 2 episodes ago or an episode ago, maybe.
Well, yeah, and not to skip ahead, but it's a good thing she was on hand because only a 10-year-old child could have fixed the hangar doors.
Okay. But then this is the thing too, is she's so precocious, she's so smart, she is, but then it takes her like what, I don't know if it's editing or what, but it feels like it takes her 20 minutes to find one plug.
Yes.
Is it because she didn't have a flashlight?
She had a big red light from her robot the entire time that she couldn't see.
It's the writing of this show.
Yeah.
That's hurting it. It
feels like a script supervisor or somebody somewhere either wasn't allowed to come be like, hey guys.
Yeah.
This is like.
So yeah, Leia's going to be sitting in this tiny hatch for the whole episode going, I'll get it in a minute. And listen.
How long is that?
Listen, I don't have a problem in Star Wars with kids saving the day. I mean, It's part of what it is, especially in the prequels with Anakin and everything. I get it. But this was something that just kept going. And it's like Lindsey said, it's like, so you have to put one plug in one thing.
It felt like the chase scene all over again, where they're trying to edit around the fact that none of this is really working.
Yeah, that they could not.
As a conflict. Yeah, like.
That these adults could not catch a 10-year-old child running through the woods.
And how do they know exactly what part of the vent, like mechanics? The problem that she needs to get to fix it, I think the problem with getting bogged down in all of this stuff too, is this is the stuff you start picking on when it's not, you can edit around it and have it not be so glaring, but it's all just like hitting you in the face with how much it doesn't.
Yes, and that's a problem. If this was something I was catching on my 5th or 6th viewing,
right,
sure, it gets a pass. But when I'm watching it, I'm going, what the heck are they doing? Mm-hmm. What is this? But this is we're going way ahead. We
keep
still
forgetting
got
there was an episode. I keep forgetting. So
let's talk about that because
before we get to our recreation of the video game,
yes,
Obi Wan is brought to a kind of like a, what would we call this, a resistance a stop on the resistance highway to get out.
Yes.
And we meet Ice Cube's son, who's okay. And this is another problem I have with the show. I feel that now I'm going to compare it to The Mandalorian, because I think that's the gold standard so far of these streaming shows from Star Wars, is that every scene, every location, for the most part in The Mandalorian, felt big and it felt real and it felt important when it's happening. And there are scenes, this show is feeling small to me, and it shouldn't feel small. I should feel that this is like an epic countdown clock happening, and every second that ticks by, I should be getting more and more stressed about this show because of what's happening, because Obi-Wan is off planet and Luke is by himself now. I should be feeling stressed out, and I'm feeling like it's these episodic little like ventures that he gets put into that they're not really big. They don't feel epic, and they don't feel that important. Like when we meet Ice Cube's son and his people, I don't feel that where they are is impressive. I'm not taken back by it too much. And although I think he does a good job in his acting, I think the part feels a little thin too. So, I mean, I'm not getting the rich writing that I got from The Mandalorian. And maybe that's my problem, that I'm just kind of holding it to higher expectations than I should be. But if the show feels small to me right now, and it shouldn't feel small, it should feel big, and it should feel important. Sorry.
Well, I would agree with that. However, I would say if they're taking Obi-Wan to this obviously secret spot,
right,
and putting him in a bacta tank. I mean, I don't know if that necessarily needs to be huge or giant. You know, like this is a secret base on an underground railroad somewhere, and it's not supposed to look like Cloud City.
Oh, I understand completely, but it also shouldn't look like a one day of the art department came in and, made a fake
Star
rock
Wars
wall.
Garage.
Yeah. Star Wars Garage.
Exactly. So
I feel
I
like,
get it.
I feel like the show can't, like, it's constrained by not being able to be too epic, because what can be so epic that you didn't hear about it by the time we get to the original series? But then I feel like it should be, if it's going to be small, I feel like it should be more intimate then. Like, I should care more about this group of rebels. I should know them better. I should know it, like you were just saying. Like,
very well said. Perfectly said.
Better. And like what's the girl who gets got? What's her name again?
The girl who gets got.
The double agent Tala. She's the most developed side character we have so far, and even her, I'm like, okay, well, I know almost nothing about her, and this is supposed to be like a really impactful, sad moment, and because they're acting so well, I'm kind of into it. But then afterwards, I'm like, oh, I didn't really know who she was.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would agree. We keep jumping forward to episode 5, but it's because personally, I think episode 5 is a big improvement over episode 4.
I agree with that.
Let's talk about some fun stuff. Okay. With episode 4.
Yeah.
How about this? How about they're trying to figure out how to get Obi-Wan into the fortress, and then how do they get him out? And they're saying they got the speeders that are apparently
you have some T-47s.
Apparently T-47 snow speeders, as we're familiar with them, are used in the Imperium to haul sewage. Apparently they're used to haul sewage for some reason. And they're like, well, how can we, what are we gonna do? Which, by the way, they're armed to the teeth, these snow speeders.
It's important sewage.
So there's
they gotta blast through all the other sewage.
It just made me laugh. I'm like, what, those things? Those pieces of junk that we haul crap with the massive guns on the front?
Where are they hauling it to? What are they doing? Are they just like transporting porta potties from their Star Wars garage?
Seems really inefficient, doesn't it? God, just dig a hole, man.
It does. But yeah, they did name drop the T-47s, and I was like, okay, we're going to see those later, because Obi-Wan's like, oh, T-47s. So Obi gets a dunk in the back of the tank. Right. And we see he's got some burns on his shoulder and his arms. But he sort of comes to his senses, and he gets out of the tank early, because he's like, oh crap, Leia's gone. We got to find her. What's going on here? So it seemed to me that's something that really didn't pay off much, because Tala makes a big deal about, no, don't come out early. You can't come out of the tank too early. And he's like, no, I have to. And it didn't seem to really affect him much. So then, of course, they make their plan. They have the scene, that a lot of movies like this have, where they have the diagram, that comes up, and they're like, hey, we got this, and we're gonna get you in this way, and
why doesn't it have shields? Because we don't have time to have a scene where we take the shields down.
well
I found that
because no one would be crazy enough.
Who is what's his name, Ice Cube's son, in this?
Roken.
I found he to be an incredibly connected person, because all he did, he's like, how are we gonna find her? Hold on, my sources tell me she's exactly here. I'm thinking, the guy's incredibly well connected.
And doesn't he seems like he's unconvinced. He's like, I'm not helping this Jedi. No. And then suddenly
I'm on board. My wife.
Oh,
in a way.
Which that was probably one of the more interesting aspects of his character, when he said, okay, so my wife was Force sensitive and they took her. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, well, that's kind of sad. And, it's an interesting character beat for him. I don't know if we're going to ever get a payoff to that, but I think it was just to sort of, connect him to the events that were happening right then. And again, it's like Matt was talking in our last show. He was talking about how Obi-Wan's kind of dismissive and arrogant. He's like, oh, you don't know what the Empire could do. And, somebody has to say, yeah, well, my wife got kidnapped and killed by him, so why don't you shut up? And Obi-Wan's like, oh, yeah. He didn't really say it like that, but so he uses his little Phantom Menace scuba device that they used in Phantom Menace to go visit Jar Jar and his people. And
good that he had that. He just kept that on like Tatooine in case.
Well, I mean, maybe those guys had it laying in the Star Wars garage.
It's just something everybody has.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, fair point.
I mean, everybody has scuba equipment in their garage, Matt. I mean, I don't know about you. Come on. But so he gets in, and okay, first thing he does is take down a stormtrooper. What was the first thing you thought he would do? Lindsay, you go.
Put the stormtrooper outfit on. Yeah, 100%. I thought he was going to walk out of there, and I was like, oh, oh, he's not.
And he just leaves the stormtrooper floating in the pool.
Well, as we've seen, as we will see, Obi Wan Kenobi is a master of disguises while in the fortress. He doesn't need.
Oh my God, armor. I forgot about that.
Well,
I forgot about that moment. Oh
Master Kenobi, not because he's a Jedi, folks.
No, well, so you guys are probably talking about a couple of different things, but he did walk through the Death Star in his moisture farmer robes.
That's true.
In episode 4. So,
but he was like, I felt like then they'd established that he could like trick a stormtrooper into just being like, whatever, dude.
Which
I thought that was going to happen too. But
to his credit, he did that.
Yeah.
He was hiding and he did the thing that he did. And he did the same thing in episode in A New Hope.
He's playing with the Force more now. The Force is a little more at his fingertips.
And that's one of the things about this episode I liked, is that you see him start to be more sure of himself. Like if you notice, he does little flourishes with his saber after he makes a kill. Mm-hmm. He like twirls it and like poses for a minute. I don't know what purpose that serves, but he looks kind of cool.
He's like, I feel cool again.
Yeah, he's like, oh yes, this is how it's supposed to be. So he starts sneaking around this base. There's little probe droids everywhere. And, he's mind tricking stormtroopers. And Tala, she gets held up a little bit by, and one thing that I like about this show is we're back to the very British Imperials everywhere. Because the
same thing. Yep.
Like most of the Imperial officers in this show could have jumped straight out of 1977. Which I think lends an authenticity to it. But he's like, oh, you don't belong here. Who are you? And so she basically kind of just shouts her way in, like, hey, you call me sir and you let me do what I want. And he's like, okay. Something I do take issue with Tala is she has great plot armor, because she just dispatches people like she's Supergirl or something. And it's, I didn't know you could dispatch stormtroopers by knocking them in the helmet and grabbing their blaster and then killing them.
Well, the best dispatch was when she's sitting in the control room at the station with somebody 4 feet away from her, and a superior officer comes to question her, and she goes like around the cubicle wall behind her, and they get into a horrible fight, and nobody in this room, I mean, it's literally like 8 feet away from the guy, and nobody maybe they're used to it though. To be fair, it's the Empire. Maybe they're used to they're like, just do the job, look straight ahead.
That's true. That's a good
just
little,
Darth Vader strangling someone else.
There. Yeah.
It's like, I'm minding my own business, punching my buttons.
I could buy that. I could make that work.
So, but it is little things like that when I'm watching the show, like this, maybe they could have done that differently.
They could have blocked it differently.
Sure.
Like there's so many ways
you see them like walking, maybe. Yeah, make him walk into another room and then she like breaks his neck or something. Instead of doing it. Yeah, or
there's a box. There's a storage box. They move a lot of trash around. Put them in a storage box.
Yes.
Every video game has that. They're doing a video game episode.
Do that.
Put them in a box.
So Obi-Wan, he goes a little further, and he makes this very disturbing discovery with the Jedi who are encased in this, I guess, amber-like fluid. I mean, they're dead, I think, without a doubt. But this is actually something that comes back around in Rebels.
Oh.
The Empire, because apparently, even though the way they're preserved, they are dead, but they're perfectly preserved, almost mummified, I guess. And in Rebels, the Inquisitors use one of these corpses to lure the protagonist of that show, Kanan, to lure him to a location, because he still has a sense of this person in the Force.
Oh.
And he goes to this place, and it's a trap.
That's super interesting. And
yeah,
cool
he
and
discovers,
not clear at all.
Yeah, well, he discovers a Jedi named Luminara, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And then he does something, and her skin instantly just like folds in on itself, and it's obvious she's dead.
Oh, no.
And he's
Did you
like,
watch
"Whoa."
Rebels? Have you seen that show? That's a good show. That's a very good show.
It's really good.
Really good show.
I
so far it's better than Obi Wan.
But that is the problem with, and we've talked about this before, I think, like the show relying on not standing alone enough in a moment like that to like make that an interesting or clear moment. Why that's, because I was going, why are they just keeping a bunch of dead bodies around? It's kind of weird. Are they trophies? Like I was like, what?
Yeah,
what are these here for?
It's very strange, but sort of disturbing as well. And
that's such like an insidious, like great evil, big bad thing to do, and it's not even, they don't make that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is, like I said, you should not have to watch all the ancillary programming to pick up on that, but that's, I feel like
it should enhance it, which I guess it kind of like enhances that moment for you. You've seen it.
Sure.
But also I feel like it should enhance it while not making it either pointless or confusing for other people.
But I think part of it is to also show Obi-Wan, like, oh man, because he's being confronted with all this for the first time, because he's been out of commission for 10 years. And he's seeing the stuff that has happened now, like laid bare before him. Like, oh, these are, and one of the Jedi that he saw, Matt, was from the Clone Wars, the first alien Jedi.
Right.
And I remember when we watched the Clone Wars, when it first aired, this character's name is Terra Nube. And we thought his character was awesome. He was this really cool Jedi. He talked interesting, kind of like Yoda, but not really. And he was really cool. He only appeared once in Clone Wars, but that's Terra Nube, the alien Jedi that he sees first. And so, again, the interesting idea, perhaps not executed the best.
But it was still like, a little, it was grim. It was like you just said, showing Obi-Wan like realizing what's been going on while he's had his head literally in the sand for 10 years. So it was I thought it was good.
And then we have, I think Matt's favorite scenes with Leia and Reva are here. And
it's so weak. It's weak.
But it's like, Reva, if she's not really good at the good cop, bad cop thing, she's just like bad cop all the time. Like, she's like, Leia, just, trust me and I'll help you. And Leia's like, well, I don't know. What is your problem?
It never really
like,
becomes good.
What are you doing?
No.
And, to skip ahead a little bit here.
It's okay to skip ahead a little.
Okay. Yeah, we're talking about everything.
Said all that needs to be said about that.
But
scene,
you see these scenes, and then subsequently, Reva, takes her droid Lola and reprograms it. Mm-hmm. And then she takes her to a torture chair, and she's just like, hey, you know what? You did this to yourself. I don't care. I'm tired of dealing with you. So if Reva is supposed to be, I think without a doubt, they're setting Reva up for some sort of redemption arc. So far, Reva has had a rough go of it, yes, but she is not a sympathetic character at all. Mm-mm. She is there. She is ready to kill Leia or torture her and not feel very much at all about it. And she's just like, hey, you know what? She basically says, you did this to yourself. You made this choice. So, and then she gets interrupted by Tala and stops the whole thing. But it's just, and I don't know what, I mean, of course, I'm sure we'll see next week, but I just don't know what the end game is here. Like, she doesn't, Matt, you called it 100%. She wants to kill Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. She's mad at Obi-Wan. I think we all guessed she's mad at Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan didn't help her. Mm-hmm. He wasn't there. But
by the way, we are jumping all over the place, but Obi-Wan could have easily said, she's like, where were you? Why didn't you help us? He could have been like, hey, you know what? I was getting my, ass handed to me on Utapau with Order 66.
General Grievous.
Yeah. It's like, it's not like he was having a good time at it.
Sure.
So anyways, I'm sorry. He let that one out.
But I'm just not sure.
He maybe could sense that no matter what he said, she's too far gone to have accepted any answer he could have had.
She wasn't having it.
Yeah, but you know what? But to Jared's point, she's not sympathetic. And you know what? The funny thing is that they've given elements in the show that they could have capitalized on to make her sympathetic. For example, they have the youngling in the amber fluid, whatever the heck that is, right? And there's no reason why we couldn't have seen her at some point standing by that youngling and just being in the, being together with it. There's a connection there. And it's almost like we know what happened to her, but then it's kind of like, then she just becomes a hell-bent, jerk who's just out for revenge. There is no like noble purpose aside from just her own revenge satisfaction. It's not like she's out to like make the Empire a better place.
I guess it remains to be seen if they're going to try to do the redemption thing with her. I don't know if they will try. I wonder if it'll be more of like, she's not redeemable to Obi-Wan, neither is Darth Vader or Anakin to him. Like, maybe they're both, like, he sees them both as irredeemable. I don't know. Because I would just keep thinking of Kylo Ren. I'm like, they tried to redeem him, and I never once thought that they earned that at all. I thought that was terrible. He's not redeemable. He sucks. So I don't know if they don't understand like what a redemption arc like should be like, or like they think because Darth Vader had his like redemption moment with his son, like everybody can have that moment now.
Yes, because that's what they're just repeating themselves at this point. Like, not everybody has to turn good. I mean, they've done it with Kylo Ren, with Boba Fett, and now I think that's the trajectory that Reva's on. And, I think it's fine for bad guys to just be bad guys sometimes.
You said it. That's perfect. And that's really the root of it. I feel that, look, the Reva story is not that interesting to me. And in a show where I only have a limited amount of episodes for Obi-Wan to be on screen with me, I don't need her arc taking over as the important arc of the show. I want Obi-Wan's story. She could be a bad guy. I don't need her to have a backstory that I care about or I'm supposed to care about. Make her a bad guy and focus on Obi-Wan and make his story bigger. Make his interactions bigger. Give him more screen time. I don't need to share the screen time with Reva all this time. I mean, half the show is Reva right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I feel like you can make her a villain that you understand why they became the way that they are. Like, that's an interesting backstory, but it doesn't mean they are like, I'm like, oh no. Like, it is sad that she, like, all her friends were murdered around her, but then she just went and murdered a bunch of other people.
Yes, because then she became a bad guy for 10 years.
That's right.
Right.
So what? Right. Well, I mean, and how does that even work?
Because Tala had her own epiphany of the Empire, and she decided to work, covertly and subvertly to undermine the Empire.
Yes.
Yeah,
Reva's not doing that. Reva's
Are they trying to like make that like a thing? If they are, they're not doing it very cleanly.
Correct.
This is how you like handle trauma and bad things that happen to you. One way you go bad, and the other way you truly try to change and take action.
The dark side attracts, people in turmoil and misery and confusion. And there's no reason why she could have become the dark side could have easily become her seduction and her path of life. And I would have bought into it. Be like, she's now she used to be a youngling. She escaped, and now she's on the dark side. I would have been okay with that.
She's chopping off people's hands.
I do still think that she is. That's what I'm saying. I think she is still, she's full of dark sided.
Well, I'll tell you this though. At the end of the episode, we get some pure comedy on the escape from the fortress. I don't even understand the incompetence level or just pure oblivious nature of the Imperials. But
so they found a giant overcoat somewhere. A giant overcoat. You never see an obese Imperial officer that would wear that. And Reva just throws it on the floor and says, "Here, I found something. You can wear this."
Like someone in the costume department was like, "So I'm making a giant. So where was this before they picked it up? Who was this for?" That doesn't matter.
So the tried and true Scooby-Doo Three Stooges trick of man in a trench coat on top of another person's shoulders.
I did like how Reva came in like, "Are you freaking kidding me? Like, he's right there." Like, I did like that she was like,
well, everybody, and so Obi-Wan's walking around with, I don't know, what looks like a giant tumor coming out of his side, I guess, as he's walking along. And watching this, I think I threw my hands up. I physically threw my hands up and said, "What is this?" And so anyway, we make it all the way to the hangar. And then the snow speeders show up and start blowing everything up.
I'm sorry, at this point, they are sewage speeders. They haven't been adapted to the cold yet.
The infrastructure, the Empire's infrastructure, they have no budget for it.
Well, listen,
so I'm thinking,
wait a minute. You did plan in toilets, right? You did. You did contract in toilets. You got speeders.
So anyway.
Did you take the guns off? Nah.
No. So, they come in, they blow up a bunch of stuff. And then, Reva swats some blaster bolts away, and then the fifth brother is just, he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He hasn't even lit his lightsaber yet. All he does is like, "You suck, Reva. What are you doing? Why would you do this?" And so anyway, and then we one of the speeders gets blown up, and I guess we're supposed to care about that guy who no one knows and had like no lines. "Oh, it's Wade. Oh, Wade. We barely knew you, Wade." But apparently everybody else is really sad about it. And then, we got Vader. Vader comes in.
Oh, best part of the show.
He's super pissed.
Man, instantly, that walk in the hallway, that aggressive, he's coming.
Yeah, he comes in there and
goes
immediately he's strangling Reva,
so great,
levitating her and saying, "You guys are a bunch of idiots." And then the third brother again, he's like a little kid talking to dad. He's like, "Yes, but my lord, but the base is destroyed, my lord." And so
she manages to tell him that she put a tracker on the ship, and he's okay now.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, okay."
I will say,
you planned for her to escape again. Great job.
I will say, I told Jared offline that every scene with Vader in the show is making me very happy. I think it's great. And it's kind of neat to see Vader at this point of the timeline, because unlike where we catch up on him in like A New Hope, at this point, Vader is not as like, he's not as like composed as he is later in the movies. He's much more like aggressive, and he's much overtly aggressive, and he's much more like impulsive. And it's interesting to watch. He is a true like juggernaut on the ground level of the Empire right now. He's not like looking at the Empire down from 35,000 feet. He is on the ground level, and he is like kicking ass, and he's like impetuous in a sense and aggressive. And I like this Vader right now.
Yeah.
It's cool to watch. It's cool to watch. He becomes much more poised and much more like I would say in a higher strata of command later, where he's like viewed differently, but like he's like a ground level like super commando right now. It's very cool.
I mean, he definitely seems to have mellowed out by the time of the movies.
And it feels like it makes the line that he says in episode 4 make more sense, since they convoluted it a bit with all of this, that they've clearly met each other several times since Mustafar.
Yeah.
Like I was, like last time we met, I was but the learner. Like he's still learning. Like the whole next episode is all about that. Like how he still hasn't learned a thing practically from when he was a Jedi.
But he, so I think Reva, she got off a little easy there. It's like, I'm tracking him. And he's like, oh, okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah. It's one of those ones where it's like, like you were talking about plot armor, like they read the script and Reva's in the next episode. So she can't die here.
Exactly. And I think, and I already think that since the events of the next episode have yet to play out, but I think at this point in time, Vader knows what Reva's game is. Like he knows that she's not on his team.
Well, why? I know. So we're basically into the next episode now.
Sure.
So we're jumping to the end a little bit. But why does he ever entertain that from her? It's never clear to me why, if he knew.
Why would he keep her around?
Why does he allow her to keep? He knows she can't kill him. So is he just like?
I'll say this. He keeps her around because of her tenacity to find Obi-Wan.
That's true. That's it.
The fact that Obi-Wan is alive makes her an asset to him, because she is just obsessed with getting to Obi-Wan. So let that dog run.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That makes sense.
And it doesn't matter if something happens to her. It doesn't matter to Vader. Like, she's an expendable asset at this point. And if she's going to work that hard to get to that point, let her go.
Yeah. Well, so, episode 4, that was, episode 1 through 3, I was finding just a few little termite wings, on the windowsill of my house. Episode 4, I realize I have an infestation of termites. So episode 5 comes.
I'll bring the bug bomb over.
Okay.
The hose, and it'll work.
No, we're not going to do that again. So episode 5, I will admit up front, I thought it was better than episode 4. I thought it was I was more entertained while watching it.
Definitely.
So, Obi-Wan, we come back to Jabim, and we see a lot of people waiting to get off the planet. And I think we get some interesting nuggets there. This is where the Jedi come to basically renounce their Jedi-ness and this is witness protection program for Jedi, because they leave their lightsabers there. They leave their cloaks, their moisture farmer cloaks, Matt. They leave them. And I thought that was a kind of a cool thing. And we find out. I
agree. Pause on that point, because it is that should have been a bigger moment than it was. And I'll tell you why. Because when Obi-Wan, and we talked about it, when he first got to this group, he was reluctant to I don't want to help this Jedi. It seems that one of the major purposes of this place is to transition Jedis out and get them out. And it could have easily been worked into that. We find that out in that moment that's what's happening, unless it's happening on the side that nobody knows about. But for the leader of this group to be like, I don't know if I want to help this guy. Well, you've been helping Jedi. Look at all the lightsabers. Look at all the moisture farmer robes you got here. You're helping Jedi. So the connection now is confusing to me on what their purpose is.
And they get back and he's like, we got her. And everybody's excited. I'm like, all these people knew and cared they were going to get this little girl back.
Great point. Put yourself in that position, right? You're a refugee. right? You're wanted by the Empire, probably. You have been smuggled out of wherever you're from. You're in this hole, waiting and praying to get on a transport to get to a supposedly safe place, right? And you're like, you have your family. You see them huddled together. They're worried. And then what? This girl is now stalling your exodus. You got to wait, right?
That's why they're so excited. They're like, thank God. Now
maybe they're like, hey,
Woo-hoo!
Finally we can leave.
God, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would have been praying for that. This little girl. She's fine.
Yeah, and they like at no point does Obi-Wan either go like get her on this ship and you all go now. Like, I'll stay here. And he eventually does that. But he should have been doing that from jump.
Yeah,
like, everybody get that out of here and I'll stay behind.
We'll kind of jump ahead. And he did kind of do that, but all he wound up doing
then he
was
doesn't.
Let the door open and they all come in. So anyways, so he's back. The Empire knows where they are because they've been tracked by the little robot. And I by the way, did you catch the scene where Vader is standing on the Death Star with the hyperspace around him?
Yeah.
Completely the same shot as Ahsoka that they used.
Oh, that's interesting.
It is almost, even as the hyperspace swirls, identical to Ahsoka standing there. And I'll find it. I'll put it on the chain after this.
Well, I thought that was a great shot, actually.
It was.
The way the camera tracked around.
Yeah.
And so this was Reva's big moment, which is all predicated on a lie, because Vader at this point absolutely knows the Grand Inquisitor is not dead. And he's like, okay, all right, Grand Inquisitor, kneel. And then she gets the pin. You get a pin if you're Grand Inquisitor.
That's important, by the way.
Yeah, you got to have the pin. I mean, that Imperial officer walks up and goes, here's your pin, Grand Inquisitor. So she gets what she wants, which, I don't think that's what she really wants, but so they're on their way to Jabim because, they got Kenobi now. And the Lola robot, we find out, I guess, is not just a tracker. It's also kind of a remote control disaster machine, because it goes up in the vents and starts slicing up wires and everything and messes up the big hangar doors that they need. And this is where we set up the people who built this place must have been a diminutive race, because if only, they're like, hey, Roken, you gonna fix this? I can't fit in there.
No.
Okay.
They said you should go up in the vents and fix this, which I thought was, he's just like saying it. He's like, oh, the vents. Maybe that's where the stuff is. He obviously doesn't know where the controls are.
No. And so Leia's like, just give me a ladder. I'll go. Again,
always the adult. Thank God we have kid Leia to see us through this.
Well, I mean, maybe some of her royal training involved being an electrician.
Well, not a very good one, apparently.
I don't know. Somebody who stares at a wall full of plugs for 20 minutes.
Felt like the way that, I only watched the episode once. It felt like if I'm watching it and just absorbing what's happening, to me, what I interpreted as happening visually was she is sitting in the dark for 20 minutes and can't see, and that's why she can't find it. And then suddenly she fixes Lola, and she's like, oh no, I have a flashlight, I can do it now. Oh, there it is. And then she does it in 2 seconds. I'm like, she's been sitting there in the dark just feeling for it, and then suddenly when she has a light, she can fix it. That's what it looked like to me, which is so dumb. It would have been better
To change the story now, it would have been better that when she found Lola,
let us write the show.
We should. When she found Lola in the compartment with her and realized that there was something not correct on Lola, the second that happened, I would have been okay if Lola had jumped out of her hand and fixed whatever it just messed up, instead of Leia doing it. Because it would have made more sense than Leia getting in that and doing it. It would have just made more sense because Lola did it. Lola knows what's wrong. It would have made sense if it just jumped out and fixed it and then everything was fine. I would have been okay with that, but no.
It would have been a cute kid moment too, like we were saying earlier, for her being more of a kid. Like, actually, she can't fix this, and maybe she even like takes credit. She's like, "Well, we can."
Kind of, right? I mean,
yeah,
cute.
But no, it didn't.
No, we didn't write this episode, unfortunately.
No, we did not.
So, so we do get some pretty cool stuff coming up, though. Okay, so we land a battalion of troopers, and they're setting up a big turbo laser, which they do all this only to find out later you can cut this door open with a lightsaber.
Which, by the way, we did not talk about this at all yet, but this episode opened with a great de-aging scene of Obi-Wan and Anakin having a lightsaber.
He's
not de-aged.
I don't think he is.
Well,
he looks pretty good.
No, there's a de-aging on it, but it's not great.
No, he looks like he's 41 years old. I think they put
he
a
did not
wig.
look de-aged to me.
They put a wig on him and said, "Okay, we used all our budget this week on something else, so hey, make sure that Anakin's dollar-free wig is touched up enough that this works."
I was wondering if we were talking.
I gotta watch it again. I felt that it was a DH, but maybe it wasn't.
I thought it looked great. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought he didn't look DH at all. I thought he looked every watch of his like 40 something years old, but I thought it looked great. I was totally fine with it. I'm so glad they didn't do that.
Okay, but seeing that scene, it did make me happy, because it's like, you see, and Ewan McGregor looked pretty good. He looked pretty spot on. He looked like Obi-Wan did in Attack of the Clones. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they chose to set this particular scene prior to Attack of the Clones, because Anakin has two hands. He's not. I think if they had put him in maybe his like Clone Wars appearance, where he's a little more rugged and beat up.
I agree. With
longer hair, it would have disguised.
That's a good point.
Because they're trying to pass a 41-year-old man off as a 19-year-old kid.
And it feels like they're doing it to see like he's still training and like he's a Padawan, he's still learning. I feel like he could be like a Jedi Knight and still be learning. I
agree. Yeah. I also felt that he didn't, the message that you're learning throughout these flashbacks didn't have a huge payoff to me. Is that
like, I mean, I get that.
I think they get away.
It wasn't as impactful as I think it was intended to be.
But I understand the intent behind it, but like so many things in this show, it just really didn't land that well.
No, it didn't. It didn't stick the landing at all.
But, that said, if, I wouldn't have minded, if this show, not to go back to Book of Boba Fett, but what if you had these sort of flashbacks that in every episode that kind of informed what was happening in the present day? You have maybe Anakin and Obi-Wan on these, Clone Wars adventures.
It would have been cool to see a whole episode of it, like an old school Clone War adventure with them.
Yeah. And then go ahead, Lindsay. I'm sorry.
That's the one thing I always wanted from the prequels more. And I know it's in the Clone Wars show, but I wanted it from the prequels more. They go from him being a Padawan, little kind of snot-nosed Padawan still, to suddenly they're best friends, and Anakin's a Jedi Knight, and they have all this banter, and they've been together. You know what I mean? Like, we were supposed to just believe their bond. And you kind of do. They're good actors, whatever. But you don't ever see it. It's a tell, not show, and we don't ever see it. And this was the perfect opportunity to see so much of it.
Yeah,
they're there. They could do it. And they do it. They have this one scene in this generic place when he's a Padawan. I'm just like, come on.
I agree.
And I don't understand why it was
so
where it was.
So they're under siege right now. The Empire is at their door. They're blasting it down. Obi-Wan goes to try and stall them, and he gives his lightsaber. He gives his all kinds of stuff to what's his name?
Naja.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. Before he did that, he got a communique.
He gets the most
By the way,
detailed voicemail in history.
Jared, do me a favor, read that to me, what you sent today, because it was hilarious.
Okay, I have to send this to Lindsey also. I'm just going to text it to her real quick.
Oh man, first off, the message I thought was highly dangerous to put out there. First off,
he's like, I know that you said not to communicate because it's dangerous, but real quick, I'm just going to lay out our whole plan.
Here, I just sent you something, Lindsey.
Just real quick.
Do you have your phone with you?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Read it out loud. Read that out loud.
Obi-Wan doesn't answer. Bail Organa and MFer. Name Luke Skywalker. Coordinates. Exact coordinates. Lives in his house. Lives with Owen Lars and Baru Lars. Father Anakin Skywalker. Mother Padme Amidala. System Arcanus. Planet Tatooine. City Mos Eisley. Likes blue milk T-16 Skyhopper. Please don't ransom him.
That's basically the amount of information that Bail Organa gives Obi-Wan over this communique. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm like, I thought Obi-Wan was going to watch it and then smash this thing, because at this point, this thing is as valuable to the Empire as anything could be.
I mean, even if he thought, he's like, I don't know if you're going to get this if you've been captured or what, but if you've been captured,
I'm going to put this out there.
Also, like,
he goes, I haven't heard from you, so you're probably in the clutches of the Empire.
The worst message you could ever give, ever. And then he puts it in that moisture farmer robe, which we all know doesn't hold anything well anyway.
And if he had just smashed it and then somehow Reva fixes it, then that, like, at least it's a little bit, it's just a little tweak that makes it a little less stupid.
He made sense. He tried. That was as dangerous as it comes. And at that point, I would have been like, if I was Obi-Wan, I'm like, I don't need this guy calling me again.
Yeah.
At all.
Block.
Throw it in the back sink.
Done. That I'm stepping on it and I'm putting it in a pool and
he's
I'm
like,
running away.
I will go to Tatooine and help Owen with the boy. Like, what are you saying?
Terrible.
When I was watching it initially, I was like, this is oddly specific.
I thought so too.
And then of course Obi-Wan hands off his lightsaber and this golden communicator off to a person that Obi-Wan knows is a criminal.
I mean, he's turned a new leaf. He trusts people so much now.
Yes.
Give it to Leia.
Yes. Say, hey, Leia, take this stuff.
Maybe it was Leia back. She wasn't back by that point, right? She was still up in the vent.
She was
still in the vent, but still, I don't know who he would give it to, but not
keep it. Just smash the communicator and keep the lightsaber and move on.
Yeah, because you're about to go out and see about 50 stormtroopers, so maybe you want your lightsaber. So the writing, I'm telling you, my goodness, why are we talking about this?
This show does get by, like, because I everything you said feels a little bit like it's very critiquey, but I overall really did like episode 5.
Sure.
And I love watching it. Yeah. I'm very engaged when I'm watching it. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm yelling at the TV, but I am also yelling at the TV, Bail, you stupid idiot. Like, what are you doing? So like, I'm really loving it, but also the writing needs a tune.
But that said, maybe listen, this is a whole new perspective, a whole new side of Bail Organa that I haven't seen. Maybe he was just a bumbling moron. Maybe this is just part of what happened with the Empire. Is that Bail Organa kept opening communications to everybody.
You haven't gotten back to me. You may have been captured. If so, here's some good info for you.
He'd be like, hey, Johnny, I know we don't have any weapons on Alderaan. We're a peaceful planet, but don't tell anybody we have no weapons. We're good.
Hey, Leia, I know that we said you were on a peacekeeping mission, but really I need you to go get the plans to the Death Star. I know you're almost there. Just
plans to that big battle station that's round. Yeah. Bail.
Well,
maybe that was Bail's thing. He was just a bumbler. Who knows?
Well, so this is where Obi-Wan approaches the blast door, and him and Reva have this conversation. I'm not sure if this blast door must not be very thick if they're just talking through the metal.
I thought he was going to do a Vulcan thing to the door.
Well, it looked like he did something. I think he was trying
it felt like a force phone call.
Yeah, he was trying to find her because he puts his hand on and you hear like a little rumble and and then, you know, basically Reva just gives the whole, pretty much what everybody had already guessed. She tells her story. And now in this flashback involving Anakin and Order 66, did Anakin stab her?
It looked like he did.
I think I've watched it twice, and I believe
it ended.
Anakin did stab her.
She said she played dead.
Yes, but I think if you watch it, it does appear from her point of view that he impales her.
And then he does it again and walks away again before making sure she's actually dead again. Just like she didn't check on the Inquisitor after that he was really dead.
As the Inquisitor is standing next to Vader going, hey, you know, I just survived a similar injury. Do you think maybe we ought to decapitate her? No, don't worry about it. Let's go.
Again, true to form, in meme world, there is a great meme also out there with Qui-Gon Jinn force talking to Obi-Wan saying, the first panel is Qui-Gon saying, Obi-Wan, I'm here. What is it you wanted to talk to me about? And then you see Obi-Wan, he's like, apparently recovering from lightsabers to the gut is quite common these days. And then you just see a picture of Qui-Gon at the bottom, like all upset. But I mean, let's think about that, right? She got stabbed. The Grand Inquisitor got stabbed. We see Reva again get run through. It's no different than what happened to Qui-Gon, but they said,
and it's not, if you're stabbed with like a blade, it goes through you, but all your stuff's still there. It's just been sliced. If you've been like impaled with a lightsaber, I feel like that vaporizes everything that was in the path of the lightsaber.
Well, yeah, and will cauterize.
So you just have a giant, have a giant hole inside of you. That I don't know. I just feel like your dead.
Spinal cord can't be good with that. I mean, nothing good can. I mean, think about when it goes through the door, right? What it does to the door.
Sure.
What's that doing to soft tissue? No, anyways.
It just doesn't seem
survivable.
What you sent me, Jared?
Well, I mean,
oh, there it is.
I sent you the picture of. It's
very treatable though.
It's very treatable. So we have this conversation with Reva, and I can't remember if Obi-Wan sort of surrenders. There is, the door comes down, and there is a shootout, and Tala meets her end, and I don't know what's going on here. I think we're supposed to care about her big lumbering droid, like kind of like K2SO from Rogue One. Like when he makes his sacrifice, it's kind of, you feel bad for him. And,
I was gutted. K2SO.
But with this guy, he sort of lays on top of Tala, protecting her, but I just didn't feel anything.
And she's acting the crap out of that moment too. She's really good. Sure. But I am sitting there going like, I don't care about this droid.
Yes. And, so she,
I think the droid looked like it belonged in the black hole from 1977.
It was, but still, I think you could fit that in Star Wars. That's something that
I agree
that would have fit.
Yeah.
But it did have, let's be honest, it did have a bit of a
it's
juvenile
a man
kind of like.
Well, it's a man in a suit, obviously. That's. But so this happens. She blows up a thermal detonator,
which I liked. I liked.
Yeah, that was cool. Yep. But I'm trying to figure out now. There was a scene where Obi-Wan just kind of walks out. He puts his hands up and so then Reva and Obi-Wan have a face-to-face with 50 stormtroopers standing around them, where they say, hey, do you think we can trick Vader and get him in here? You can maybe assassinate him. I'm thinking, like, right over there is a stormtrooper, like 5 feet away from you. And they're talking, hey, so you think when he comes down here, we can go in there and, kill him?
There's stage whispering, Jared.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we could do that. So Reva's like tells two stormtroopers, and again, I thought as I was watching, okay, so Obi Wan Kenobi unarmed against two stormtroopers is still that it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, he can dispatch, and he does. He dispatches them immediately. You know, she sends him back in the base with his hands cuffed.
Why even send him back in? Keep him on his knees right
there. Keep him
there
out there.
until Vader gets there.
Right in a circle around him with stormtroopers with blasters pointed at him.
No. Go in there. I think, but devil's advocate here. I think she was trying to, she wanted to kill Vader, and she wanted to do it away from everybody else.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. But
fine. But there's ways of accomplishing that doesn't look like incompetence. You know, and they didn't really like lean into that, even though that you could infer that they could have leaned into that a little more.
Yeah.
Like even with just like subtle acting, she could have like given a look. She could have like paused and like looked off to and be like, I need you two to take him and escort him and keep an eye. Like there was none of that. It was just that standard Reva, like barking orders, kind of like no depth. Take him in there. Like
she sort of has a moment where you think he's maybe convinced her on some level, and she walks away, and maybe that's that moment, but it's not enough.
No.
And she gets Obi-Wan away, and she's thinking that Obi-Wan is just going to be in the hangar waiting for her. Well, Obi-Wan, of course, as soon as he's out of her eye line, he dispatches the troopers and runs to the ship. And Vader lands, and then he's like, where is he? And she's like, well, he's right inside. So, and the whole time I'm thinking, is the Grand Inquisitor like staying in the shuttle, like going, should I come out now?
I'm going to wait for my dramatic moment.
Do I come out? What will a stormtrooper come and tell me to go out there? So Vader goes in, and this is my favorite scene in the episode. Because, so is this where the ship gets away? The ship gets away.
Oh, it's so wonky, though.
Well, so he walks in there and nobody's there. And then the ship takes off and he pulls the ship down and starts to tear it apart.
Right.
But then another ship, which... The first time I watched this, I was like, what the hell?
Where did that come from?
But when I watched it back, you can see a second ship in there.
I mean, you can't hear the other ship has its like engines running or nothing?
Nothing. You can't hear that, Matt. Come on. He can't hear very well.
He's got too much tunnel vision.
Well, he's very focused. He's very focused. And so they get away.
That moment was great.
And
that was cool. Him ripping the whole side of the.
I was like,
apart.
oh my God. When he grabbed it in the air, I was like, oh.
And I thought immediately, why didn't he do that in Empire Strikes Back with the Millennium Falcon? He walks in the hangar right as the Falcon's leaving. He could have, but this is an older, mellower Vader at that time. He's like, I don't care. So right after he finds that these people have escaped, Reva comes up behind him. And this is what I'm talking about. It's my favorite scene. And she tries to strike him, and he doesn't even move, and her blade just stops. And then he turns around, and she's like full rage. She's screaming at him, and he's just sitting there. He's just twisting her around and pushing her into walls. And he's like, okay, what do you got? And this scene just reminded me of like when my cat was younger, he would find these lizards in the house sometimes, and he would just bat the lizards around and like torture them and like pick them up in his mouth and throw them. He just plays with them before he finally kills them. And that's what it felt like Vader was doing. Like there was just absolutely no question that there was no threat to him at all. Like the way he takes her saber and he breaks it in half and he throws the other part on the ground, like, okay, go ahead, let's do this, pick it up. And it's the whole scene, that
really good.
That was just great, and it just I'm glad they played it like that too. I'm glad they, certainly there would it's you could argue they would have attempted to make Reva a match for him, but they didn't go that way because they Darth Vader is Darth Vader, and so he just continues to play with her until eventually stabbing her. And then our friend Uncle Fester walks in and is like, "Hello, you are a piece of garbage."
Takes the pin back. Now he's not official until he puts the pin back on.
He took the pin off of her. He did get his pin back. And so Reva, she's
Vader acknowledges that he knew all along she was one of the younglings. And
he's like, he goes, "Did you really think I didn't know, youngling?"
He was obviously curating this whole thing from the start and using her from the start.
Again, it's what the heck has been going on these last 10 years? I mean, why would he, we said earlier, why would he even keep her around?
Well, again, we mentioned this.
Knew before the Obi Wan thing, though, before she was super obsessed with Obi Wan, the Grand Inquisitor was trying to get her off of that. He was like, "Give it up, give it up, give it up, stop it."
But you're right. Maybe he liked that drive to find Obi Wan.
Yeah, but we mentioned this in the last episode that we did, and again, I think that in Rebels, in this show, the Inquisitors as a group of characters, I think, is fairly weak, and I'm glad that they did not translate into the movies. I'm glad that they were kind of siloed out to this kind of part of the timeline. I think it dilutes Vader too much. I think that they never really had a place that made sense in the Empire, and to see Reva go down, or to see the Grand Inquisitor come back, doesn't really fill me with dread. And I don't really care that Reva went away. These characters never hit that hard for me, and I always felt, although somewhat interesting, and I did like some of the storylines associated with the Inquisitors, I never really thought that they were great pieces of Star Wars.
And I think the episode 4, where they basically rip off Jedi Fallen Order, I feel like not only were they ripping that off, whatever, but they also, that game has a better second sister Inquisitor that was a youngling arc. I forget her name, but
I know you're talking about.
That whole plot line with her and her Jedi Master, that whole thing, that story is great. And it was my first exposure to the Inquisitors, and I loved them from that game. And I love that character. And she has a moment where she wakes up a little bit, but she doesn't get she's been a bad guy, and she gets the ending she was always going to get because she chose that path. And it's a great story. It's a great character. And because they're side by side, it makes this story even worse.
Well, at least Reva is done, and she got her end.
No,
she's
not.
dead, and she's dead. Dead as can be. Her storyline is concluded.
No. Well,
not even close.
At this point, she finds Bale's awesome message, and she's going to piece it together. And because only the pertinent parts of the information survive the destruction of the communicator. Tatooine, Owen, the boy.
So what do we think she's going to do with this information?
What's her end game?
Leia's going back to Alderaan. She's not going to Tatooine. Leia, we can assume, does not accompany Obi-Wan to Tatooine.
Yeah, we can assume that.
Which she better not, I should say.
If she ends up playing with Luke on the Lars farm, I'm going to have to...
No.
I'm going to have to burn my house to the ground. I mean... yeah, that's what it is back there, back behind you.
I mean, in 30, how long are these episodes? I forget.
Oh, well, this
45 and
47
a little longer.
minutes.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to get her back to Alderaan, have them have a goodbye because she's a pivotal character.
Obi-Wan better smack Bail first.
And then he's gotta talk to Bail about being
they're already in trouble.
Espionage agent of all time.
Well, we have to think too. Obi-Wan, okay, look, first off, Reva is no longer in good graces in the Empire.
No, she's persona non grata.
Yeah, she can't contact Vader. She can't contact the Inquisitors and nothing. She cannot call on them. So if she calls Obi-Wan, what is her end game there? What's her like strategy? Is she there to make his life hell now? Or like, what is her mission with this information? Like, what does she do with it? Who does she tell? Is she trying to get like back in the good graces with Vader? Like, what does she do with it?
At what point in the grand timeline does Vader realize that Luke is his son and is alive? Is it when he's on when they meet and he's like, or is it like
in between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back?
Yes, it's after A New Hope. They actually did tell the story in one of the newer comic books. Boba Fett found out who Luke was, and he's the one who told Vader. And
is that canon?
Yes,
and it's part of why Boba Fett is so entrusted with Vader when he sees him on the. Anyway,
because I was like,
he doesn't know.
What's she gonna do with the information? Obviously not tell Darth Vader.
Exactly. Well, so what is she gonna do with it? I don't know.
Well, here's my prediction for episode 6. There has to be another. There's got to be another showdown between.
This is the last episode coming up, right?
Yes. There has to be
a lot to wrap up.
There has to be another fight between Obi-Wan and Vader. I can't imagine that there's not.
Yeah, Obi-Wan has to.
He has to win. He has to whip him.
Yeah.
I still maintain we're going to see Liam Neeson in this show somehow.
Yeah, if Chekhov's Qui-Gon doesn't fire, I'm gonna be so annoyed.
Yes, I think we're going to see Liam Neeson. But this episode closes. They are on a ship that has no working hyperdrive, being chased by a Star Destroyer. So what the heck is going on?
Yeah. I forgot their hyperdrive died at the end.
Yeah, like Roken sits down. It's like, yeah, we don't have a hyperdrive, just so you know. And there's a Star Destroyer chasing us. Okay.
There's hopefully this is a full hour episode to wrap it up.
At least,
if not more.
But
there's a lot to wrap up. There's a lot of stuff to wrap up.
But the last shot of the episode is the Luke asleep in his bed.
Yeah. With darker hair, by the way.
Well, yeah.
Well, the sun, the sun's got to bleach it.
Yeah, he's still got another decade worth of 2 suns.
That's true.
But with as far as like Obi-Wan, and there has to be a confrontation of Reva and Obi-Wan.
We do know that Reva met Owen. She knows the name Owen.
She knows Owen, yes.
So from the first episode or second episode, one of those two.
Yes.
So she knows that he's connected to Obi-Wan. So this is a part that is important. I don't know her end game now. I don't know.
What does she hope to accomplish?
I don't know.
She doesn't know. She doesn't know. I mean, she can't know that Luke is Vader's son, because that's not part of the information that was given to her.
Right.
And but what is her purpose now? She failed at killing Vader. The Empire's cast her out.
Yep.
It seems like Obi-Wan is like the only friend that she has. But why are we filled with this sense of dread that she's going to the Lars farm to try to kill or kidnap Luke?
And who's helping her off the floor with this lightsaber wound in her gut?
Right, everyone's gone. I mean, everyone's gone.
No
Where's
one's
the
left
nearest
in that base.
town?
Gone.
Yeah. How's she getting? There's no ships left. How's she getting off that planet?
Knowing this show, she's just going to show up in a TIE fighter or something. And it's like, oh, there was a TIE fighter there. Okay. I don't know. But
and, sometimes I'm fine with shows being like, it doesn't matter how they got there. Don't need to get too in the weeds with the logistics of stuff. But like you said, because all I'm seeing is the logistical cracks, I'm like, doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
What?
And it's frustrating because really this show the show could have been such a slam dunk, like a slam dunk.
Yeah.
You got Ewan McGregor back, you got Hayden Christensen, Darth Vader. You have these compelling characters, and it's gone sideways, and it's frustrating because the Book of Boba Fett. I enjoyed. I recognized a lot of people didn't, but you're seeing the same kind of pattern, the same. Oh well, this is pretty cool, but there's problems. You saw it with the sequel trilogy as well, and I don't know. So this just really tempers my expectations for what comes next. Go ahead, Lindsey.
Sorry. It feels like this feels like maybe this should have been a movie. Like they were, we're making it, we're doing Disney Plus, now we can do it. We'll do Obi Wan as a Disney Plus show. When they only had enough story for maybe 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I agree.
And it got a little too much that doesn't really matter. That's why I feel like I'm really hoping the last episode's going to be really good, because this is where they were trying to get to.
That's a great point, because that's a really good point, because I do feel that this has been a very extended trip away from Luke without much like concern about getting back to him. Like I said earlier, like I haven't felt Obi-Wan really like worrying about getting back to Luke quickly in this. He's trying to rescue Leia. That's his job. But, there's nothing like doom and gloom, nothing like on the horizon in his sight that is approaching Luke that I feel he needs to get back. And a movie would have been much tighter and much more like the clock's ticking kind of thing.
And like Rogue One managed to make you care about all these new characters. Great. This whole, like in that small amount of time, there's people who can write better than me to make you care about these people and bring them to life in 2 hours. And I don't feel like this show has had 6 episodes and I've done it as well.
To a positive thing is that Tony Gilroy, who was one of the writers on Rogue One, is the showrunner of Andor.
I can't wait for that show. I'm always like, I can't wait for it. I always go in. It's just so exciting.
And at this point, I'm like, man, Andor, you got to help me, buddy.
Yeah, you moved on.
You got to, I saw the trailer for Andor. I didn't know what to expect from it, but it looks really good.
Yeah.
And, if Tony Gilroy is working on that show, and he worked extensively on Rogue One, maybe we're in for something special there. But, that doesn't excuse the fact that we've taken Obi Wan Kenobi and we've sprinkled moments of greatness in here and there. But that's just not, I shouldn't have to wait for some fan edit on YouTube to make a good Obi Wan Kenobi story out of this. And, my expectations are very tempered going into the finale, because, I don't think the information, if Reva has any information, if she somehow gets information, the information she has, she cannot live. She cannot walk away from this show alive, because if she somehow pieces together, she's obviously going to Tatooine. This is where you're going to see Owen, that her confrontation with Owen is going to pay off. She's going to have a fight with Obi-Wan, because Obi-Wan's going to be there to try to stop her. But
you can't have Vader in this area.
There's no way. And if she somehow walks out of this show alive, then I'm like, well, what the heck?
I mean, the only thing you can do is if Reva feels that she has a piece of information to get back in the good graces of Vader, and Obi-Wan finds that out and has to confront Vader again in order to keep this information from him getting it. Maybe I'm trying, because you have to, Obi-Wan does not want to confront Vader again. He wants to get as far away from him as possible. So why do they confront it again? So, and I don't think Vader finds him again. He keeps finding Obi-Wan. I think at this point, Obi-Wan has to find him in order for, he has to have that kind of like that drive. I don't know how they're going to do it, guys and girls.
I wonder if I wonder if, like you said, I don't want them to go that route of the redeeming or attempting to redeem her in this amount of time, because I don't feel like they can do that justice. I don't think she deserves it. I'm not against a redemption story. It's just you got to do it right, and I don't think they're doing it right if that's what they're doing. So then she ends up, I think, getting funneled into the underground Jedi thing would be the way to get her out of the story without killing her. But I don't want that.
I don't want that. She can't live. She can't live.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. It will be an interesting recap. We'll see.
I'm sure we'll be back here soon enough, either screaming in our webcams or
everybody go play Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna YouTube those scenes actually tonight. I think I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, you should just check them out.
I played that game. I don't remember it though.
So good. And we're just talking about that now. But when Cal gets confronted with Vader, and there's a similar moment where he like tries to force throw that big thing in him, and Vader just like catches it like a softball, and Cal like there's a moment when you think as a player you're about to try to fight Darth Vader, and just runs away. Because of course you do. Of course you do. I'm not gonna fight Darth Vader. Come on.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But Obi-Wan, I like it or hate it, it's here. It's canon. This is what happened to Obi-Wan. And I feel like new perspectives on characters like Bail Organa and his incompetence. But I am going to suffer through it, and I'm going to watch it. And I'm going to love it as much as I can.
Yeah. I always try to evaluate it, like, how did I feel watching it, and how did I feel after I watched it? And I enjoyed watching episode 5.
Sure.
And afterwards I was like, oh my God.
And I enjoyed the first few episodes. I actually liked seeing Obi-Wan in his hermitude and getting in that. I actually liked seeing that part of Obi-Wan. So there's parts of the show that I think are great.
Whatever happens, Liam Neeson will salve some wounds.
I'm telling you, that's your outshot. He's in his cave and he communes with Qui-Gon, and that's it. That's how it ends.
There's so many things that have to get wrapped up. This is a pacing problem.
And if they
these shows have.
I've already seen rumors about another season. They have to pump the brakes on this. There's only so much that can happen.
I don't need that much white space filled. I'm okay
between Obi Wan Kenobi, he has a story. You know where he starts and you know where he ends. And
the only thing I could see them doing is at some point in episode 4, Luke knows who Ben Kenobi is.
Oh yeah, he knows Ben Kenobi.
He knows who he is. He knows where he lives. He knows his name. He doesn't know him at all now. He's like absolutely no one to him right now. So if they did anything, I feel like, but that might be a moment in the next episode.
Well, maybe we'll get the Leia show.
Aww.
I would watch that because I like. I'm not a heartless.
Her and her little her mischievous ways, always getting into little troubles. But anyways, Obi-Wan is coming to a crashing halt soon. Hopefully we have some survivors in the crash and we get to walk away from it thankful and happy.
All right, so that'll do it for this week's episode of the Kenobi Chronicles. Lindsey, we'd like to thank you for joining us. And at this point, you're coming back. There's no doubt about it. We've come this far.
The circle must be complete.
You must complete the circle. So we will see you on the next episode. Please tell your friends, like our YouTube channel, tell them to subscribe to the podcast on the podcatcher of your choice. Just don't leave them a very detailed voicemail about never mind. Anyway, thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
You know you can't live without this content, so subscribe to the Hyperspace Podcasting in the 25th Century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us here next time as we take you into the 25th century.